I think I'm live. I can't spell from either. Damn it. Hi Graham. Nigel. There's quite a few people watching. Now I could share it also with the live paint chat, which has got 4,049 members, but I think I'll keep this one a bit more personable. Although when I did stream with them 1st of January was the last time I was live, I had a strong 30-ish people watch the entire feed, so I don't think I'll get that tonight, but it'd be nice. How is everyone? It's a bit, isn't it? And me personally, obviously I enjoy doing this, but it doesn't suit, it doesn't really satisfy the urge to try and race a remote control car around the track, without crashing it. Nigel. So yeah, it's just a bit meh at the moment. It's not. Obviously, we're all healthy, but there's no race dates, so there's nothing to like. Oh, it's Monday morning, but I've got racing Sunday. It's like I think it's Monday tomorrow, and there's no racing. I'm stuck in that limbo time between Christmas and New Year, where I don't know what day it is. Alright, Willie, alright? I need you need to do a live stream so I can hear you talk with your accent, because you think I talk funny. So it'd be quite funny to listen to you talk. Right, so let's get back onto the proper line of right, so tonight we have got a DBX and the new Wolverine, which, let's see if I could do the side-on view. It looks like a GT. I mean, don't get me wrong, a nice looking GT. It's not a touring car. And I tell you what, right, don't do any sort of detail around the rear brake light, sorry, tail light, because cutting into that little corner there is the most horrific thing I've had to do. I can't even get my finger in there. I can't get a craft knife in there. It's just like this. It is absolutely tiny, and I stupidly put a pinstripe through it. Well, I tried to put a pinstripe through it. I've now just got a pinstripe stopping, and then a line taking on after that. But I really like the way the brake light goes around this curve. It's got a really nice curve, and it's got a slight lip on the rear boot trunk. I reckon that's going to be rather aggressive. And then they've got this nice grille thing up here on the top here. So I very skillfully drew the design around it, so I didn't have to go over it with a craft knife, because I reckon that'd be like going over speed bumps. So I drew round it, which then made me then do the same on the other one to make them look like I deliberately did it, rather than just trying to get out of trying to draw a pinstripe through the centre of it. It adds some strength to it. Looks nice. It's got a nice line against the top of the door window. And they've got like a folded. Do you remember the Montec Racer had a bump along the side of the door? I've got one here somewhere. No, I can't find it. I have still got a Racer somewhere, and it's had like a door fold all the way along for strength, and they've put it a lot higher up. So that'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see what this goes like. I mean, it looks all sculpted and very not touring car, in my opinion. And you see how close they've got the wheel arches and how low the bonnet is. Like, you can see the other side of it. And then you've got these funky bits up here as well, which I think are for strength. And then on the BMW they've done as well, there's a like this fold in the bonnet for strength as well. So all in all, yes, I should be buying some more of these, because I reckon these will look rather nice painted. Could swear then, I'm not going to. But it was just getting the, but be careful trying to get into those corners. I sprayed an extra load of mask in there just to make sure, and then it went absolutely everywhere, and I just thought I gave up with it. So hopefully it all peels out nicely. And then you've got the sort of benchmark, in my opinion, the DBX, which is the front end, which I do off every shell, because I cut one off of an old car. And what I do is I stick that on the inside of the lesser models that don't have a nice design, and I just draw that. So that's my little cheat to draw body shells, front lights and grills consistently. Hi David, you alright? There's lots of people watching. Hello, 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 hello. I can't say hello to everybody, sorry. So yeah, so tonight we are doing, let's just get the picture up. I really should have put what colours going where, but I like the jeopardy. So I did a design for a friend of mine, Mikey, and it's the Italian flag. So I've just got to remember to put the right colour on the right side. So that's what we're doing. Hi Jack. So I've done the lights on this one in proper Blue Peter fashion. So got the basil bee to go in there in a minute in the grill. How organised is that? I thought it was going to take too long to do 2 shells, so I thought I'd do a little bit. I've done the window frames as well, the outer window frame, and I've done one of the headlights. So I've got one more headlight to do, then I've got to peel out the bits and bobs, and we can get going. Iwata Eclipse CS. Can someone tell me, because obviously they've all got the same Eclipse HP CS Japan, and then each, because I've got three eclipses, and can someone tell me what, because I know that the initials, which on this one is YK, is the month it was produced, or is it the year it's produced? Because I'd really like to know what one. So I've got a YK, a YE, and then my oldest one is a UB. So I think it's pretty cool that they're stamped, but I don't know what they stand for. Is it months or is it years? Yes, Dave, Mondeo soon, don't worry. And we're spraying black at the moment, which is detail black 0051. And I date each, I have a bottle a month. So this is my January bottle. And then at the end of the month, I throw it away and start a fresh bottle. Because I think over the course of a couple of weeks, once you've opened it, it deteriorates. Nothing sprays better than a brand new bottle. So to know how long I've had it, I date it, and then I chuck it away and start a fresh one. Otherwise you end up with a bottle you don't know how old it is, and it just sprays junk after a while. And we are spraying currently at 30 psi. But that all depends on what needles and stuff that you're using, and if you thinned your paint and all sorts of other variables, but 30 psi is what I'm using. How is everyone? Is everyone good? I'm concentrating on my beard for this year. Anyway. And I'm currently playing a YouTube set in my headphones. So I have banging music, and you can all hear me breathe deeply. I've just had a massive roast dinner and I can barely bend. Mind you, I can't bend anyway. Not with these hips. Years and years of go-karting has kind of broken me. I actually found some, well, my parents have been tidying up my dad's old office, because he's a bit of a keen photographer, and for all the years I go-karted, which was from the age of 11 until I was 26, my dad used to come along with a camera. As much as that irritated me, because every other dad had spanners, it means I got loads and loads of wicked pictures of my old racing. And they sent me some of the more memorable meetings, and I've got a load of pictures of, firstly when I had hair, because I haven't anymore, and secondly I was very, very skinny. And like, say skinny, I mean like my racing weight was 56 kilos, so this was about 7 stone, and I got to race in where did I go to? I went to France, did all the local stuff, went to Scotland, went to Wales, and I went to Dubai. Four times I went to Dubai and raced for different rich Arabs in endurance races. And I was looking through all the old photos, and one of the teams I raced for was they were sponsored by like UFC before it was UFC, and they sent a couple of the fighters along to the race meeting, and I'm there, a 7 stone wet, standing next to a dude that must have been about 12 foot tall and was wider in his shoulders than I was tall. So I've got a very cool picture of me standing next to him and me grinning, and him just like looking like he's about to rip my head off, which he probably was about to. I went out to Dubai at least 4 times. Got to go play go-karts. So put the tops on these headlights and the rings. No snow, no, it's not rain. It's not snowing here, only rain. So I believe this is modelled on a DTM Aston Martin from last season. It's quite funky painting something new for the first time. I mean, I've painted quite a lot of body shells, but it's nice to have a different style to do. I've over here got something to do in my own spare time, which means that I haven't done it. I've got a DTM Audi, which I half drew and have kind of lost interest in. So I'm going to do an Ekstrom 2008 on it. That's another hobby for another time, another day, when I get time to do my own stuff, which I don't. So the circles which I cut off my cutter and go on my cutting machine. I don't want it to flare up too much. And then I stick them all down, and then I paint around them. And then I remove them and then spack them with white. So I can move that now. No, I've had no Brussels sprouts, don't worry. Anyway, it's more socially unacceptable to cough than it is to fart at the moment, isn't it? So I'm safe. So because I'm lazy, I kind of just, all I do when I finish in the evening is I chuck a bit of reducer cleaner in the tops and just leave the paint in there. So this was black last time I used it. And obviously I only go a couple of days between paint jobs. I painted a really small one the other day. Well, I did two small ones actually. I did a little four-wheel drive buggy. I'm still learning how to do the window frames because I find them quite tricky at the angle you've got to cut on the inside. So I did a double window frame just to be posh. And then you've got a little baby touring car, which is an X-Ray M18, I believe. It's an old Mazda Speed 6. That gives you an idea of the size of it. I haven't got massive hands, these are very small. So you can see through the chrome. Obviously when it's on a track you can only see the chrome. I use hobbynox HN 200-21, and I go through. I did try and make my own, because if you go on the internet you can find these videos of these dudes that have made their own cleaner, and I made it to their recipe, and all I did was melt the inside of the chrome off of my gun, and it didn't clean any better than water, so I've gone back to using the reducer cleaner that I use. And then I have a little model airbrush brush that I just wiggle it about in there for a couple of seconds and then put my finger over the end and bog wash it. And it doesn't matter how much you think you've got out of it, just a little dribble, you'll always get a bit more. This is a palette, and then under here I've got a box of old bits of carpet and stuff, and I spray into there to clean out my gun. So I'm not spraying into thin air. Right, that's running clearish. I don't know if you can see that, it's turned the inside at the bottom, it's gone like a coppery colour. That's from my homebrew, so I gave up with that very quickly. But saying that, the newest one I've got, that's done the same, and I've been using this stuff, but it's not as bad. And then the first one I've got is like literally, well, it's what, 3 or 4 years old now, and it's absolutely mullered. Doesn't spray any, it doesn't do anything to it. It just looks a bit odd when they go a funny colour. It's like a badge of honour, I suppose. I find that quite useful. There's this little ring thing. I don't know what it's actually for, but I put tissue in it, and it holds it quite nicely. It doesn't blow it away when you start using the hairdryer. Right, so now we're going to use the other detail, which is Wicked White, which is 0001. And there's a couple of marbles in there. Or you can use old top deck screws. We've got 29 people watching. Where's everyone watching from? Have we got any internationales? Because when I did the live feed for the paint chat the beginning of the year, the beginning of the month even, that was truly international. was Detroit, Texas, California, Medway. Right, white. This is still at the 30 psi. The only time I go a bit higher on the psi is if I'm doing a very large area. But I found since I've lowered the psi, I go through, I'm not going to say half because that sounds too dramatic. I definitely use a lot less paint. Hello Paula. Now Maryland. Now whereabouts in the States is Maryland? Because I don't know my American. I don't know America basically. So you've got Denmark, Germany, Tunbridge Wells. That's local. Hello. It's the posh. It's the posh side. It's the other side of the yeah. It's the posh bit. Finland, New York, Stockport, Manchester. Wicked. East Coast. Oh, East Coast. What time is it over there at the moment then? And I bet it's hot as well, which is upsetting for me. I have my own little heater in the shed now, and I've got up to a balmy 20 degrees, which is nice. Although I've still got a woolly hat on and about 6 layers. But I now have warm feet. As I was getting really bad, because I'd sit out here for more hours than I would care to admit. My feet were just stone cold. So I've now built, where I put this heater in, I've actually got the pipework running underneath, and it shoots either side and at the middle of my feet, and it's lovely. I can actually feel my toes. Right, so we've got just pulled the front grill. This is a bit of a monster of a grill, hoping that my grill is big enough. And then we've got my little basil bonnet. See, I know Mikey won't peel my stickers off, but there are some customers that have taken my race stickers off in the past, so I always put a B in the grill, so they can't. Which is me being a little bit like, up yours. But also I think it looks cool. So I just run my fingernail over the back of it. My hands are clean, but I try and keep my fingers off the areas that have, as much as I can. There you go. There you go, Scott. There's the ultimate game, isn't it? Where you're painting while you're watching me. So you're watching paint dry while watching paint dry. Which is like double paint dry. Serious close-up. So tweezers, I mean standard, you need these. I think I'm level 6 on the tweezer ninja scale. Actually, I'm non-lethal with chopsticks though. So I've got a line here telling me where the centre of the shell is, and I just eyeball it and try and make it level and square. back of the fingernail. I use low-tack masking to move my image from the cut-out sheet to the shell. Then I should have done this before it came on camera, but there we go. I'll try and do this live. On here I've got my little hex for my grill. I'm hoping this is going to pull without any bugger. So I nearly got it off in one. I've just got loads of bits left in one side. So if I'm lucky, I can just put it down on top of that sheet. This will severely knacker the life of it. It won't last as long. But I haven't got the patience to sit there and tweeze them all out. Right, so I'll work around that. You'd be shocked at where I find these little hexes once they come off. I'm not going to say where I found them, but I found them in the oddest places possible, because they just ping off when you're trying to pick them out, and you'll be like, I'm not going to say anything, but you find them in the most oddest of places, trust me. So then line that up. I use the top line of the opening to square it up, because there is nothing worse than having a pissed grill. When you put it round the other way and you're looking at it and it looks like the hex should be running off. So always make sure it's level on the bottom, on the top edge of the, because I leave the permanent marker line so I can see where I am. So I always try and make sure the top line is level. Lightly dust on the first coat and then look to see if any of the hex is lifted. It's much easier to see it once it's got a layer of paint on. You don't want to put it on too thickly, because when you finally do see it, it's too late because it's already gone and blown up. And you'll get these little farts underneath the hex, which ruins it. It's also a good way of knowing when you need to change your hex panel over to a fresh one, because they don't stick as well. So I always stick that on the shell, try and make it last longer, and also get those bits off that that'll look a bit more obvious in a minute. And then I run round it to give it like an eyeliner or an edge. I think it just frames it nicely. Especially as the front end is generally white, so if you did a grill, it just looks odd if it's got no end to it. So I just run around that slowly. And I'm going to use my knife. So put the knife on the bit of mask you've got, pull it back until you feel it dunk off, then push back and it lifts it. That way you don't scratch the paint. Because trust me, there's nothing worse than leaving little knife marks in your paint. something bright. There you are. Right. You'll see it in a second because I put some white behind it. And then it's just a case of repeat. You can get fancy and you can leave the bee in and peel it out and put a different colour in, so it doesn't have to be white. As the front ends are white and this side's green and this side's red from memory, then I don't want to have a, I don't know how I would do that to make it look uniform, so I'm just going to do it white. I have been known to put different colours in there occasionally. There's only one customer I will change the colour of my lights for, and that's I can't remember his name. That sounds good, doesn't it? I can't remember his name. Mr. Madison. How can I forget him? Jesus. Serious grey moment then. He always asks for orange. He's the only person I'll change the colour of the lights for. Right, now, so this is a bit of a monster one. I'm going to have to pick out those little bits. So lining up the top edge, because this curves around in wicked. So some would say that's jammy, but I'd like to think that I measured them so that they're long enough to go over certain size openings. But having never done this shell before, this is just pure luck. That fits. So tweezers out, get rid of those little bits that have. I will upload this afterwards onto my YouTube page, but I'm not trying to sell it to you as like, oh, click and like and all this other bollocks. It's there if you want it. I have bought myself a better camera, so what I was going to do is I was going to start streaming to YouTube, not predominantly but occasionally, because it's a better grade, so you can get a better camera. Scott, all I said is you've got to be careful of these fins at the back here. An absolute nightmare because they're not wide enough to get your knife into. So you've got a detail to run through them, which I do. It's a bit of a nightmare. But it's what they go like on track, isn't it? That's the defining factor. So I run round a couple of times around the edge to give it shadowing. If you try and put too much on at once, it just blows every. Well, you just don't. Thank you very much, Duncan. Now I do, Joe. I do have an Instagram, but I'm too old to figure out how to run it. So there is one linked to my Facebook, which I think uploads to Instagram. But then I manually put the videos from here onto YouTube. I'm up to 155 followers on YouTube now. I'm quite chuffed with that. Although saying that, the other day I did that. I should have brought it out here. I've got that 8th scale I did in black and white with a little bit of lime. Very pleased how that turned out, and that got me 32 followers to my page in one afternoon, which I was very shocked about. I've never had that many. I haven't had a jump that big unless I've done something wrong. It looks a bit like a fish. Catfish? What does anyone else think? The Wolverine catfish edition. Now, I sat and watched a film last night on Amazon, I think, and I sat and just cut this shell out while I was watching the film, so I know I spent an hour and a half just cutting this one. I mean, obviously I was watching the film at the same time, but I know I spent an hour and a half just cutting one shell. I normally take about an hour, so I was being really careful in this one, because obviously, not that I wasn't careful on the DBX, but because this is a brand new to me, I wanted to take my time on it. Basically peel and paint when you get to a certain level. I think that's what it's based on, Duncan. Is it Stefan? Stefan? Yes, I do. I always do lights and grills first. If you think about it, if you've just gone and painted the whole front end white, and then you then try and do this black shading around it, it kind of bleeds into the whatever colour, because generally the white traditionally is brighter. So, me personally, I always do this first. Otherwise, you hold it up to the light, and if you've got a bright front, you can see where all the overspray is. So I always do that first. And then it's just a case of peel away and spray it white. I mean, I'm not doing the white too thick for the backing shade, because you'll have another layer of white over it again. I mean, if you're trying to really save weight, which some drivers want, I would leave those sort of naked until I do the white. Then it's one shade of white, and it's not. Well, I don't know what that saves, but it makes them feel happy. I need it as light as possible. I've had one driver, was it the 12th Worlds last year? I painted 3 shells, all the different particular models they wanted, absolute nightmare. And then he wouldn't use any of them because they were too heavy. But he never told me to paint to a certain weight, which I would have done. If you stay long enough and stay awake and stuff, you'll see this pile of stuff grows. Now, on the DBX, you've got the front grille, and then you've got these side fence, and I like to square up to that edge, so I put these at a slight angle, which I think gives it a slightly more scale. Oh, I think it looks more scale. I don't know if it does. It makes me feel happy. And I don't think I've particularly got much OCD. If it looks off, it looks off. That, to me, makes it look like it's off. If it doesn't look like it's right, I don't think that's me being particularly fussy. You just know when you've painted something, if you like it or if you don't. And I like doing them on a slight angle. I'll show you in a second. When I painted the live stream for the paint chat in the beginning of the month, I realised quite how much I miss painting on stream and talking to people. People to talk to, yeah. I mean, I love my wife, I love my kids, but I see them all the time. So it's nice to see, it's nice to talk to other people, or just randomly talk at you and you can only type back at me. It's very cathartic. Those that know me know that I can talk for Britain anyway. Just, it's not worth listening to. So I'm in the lucky position where I have 3 of the same brush now, all on quick release, so I can just swap between one to another, and I haven't got to adjust the pressure or anything, so they're all in the same size standard needle. So it makes life a lot easier and quicker. So if you see that I've got the centre one is square, and then the side ones are up following that other straight edge. I think it just looks slightly better scale. Yes, the last but one comment, I'm not going to try and insult you by trying to say your name. Yeah, if you look for me on YouTube, it's just Basil Airbrush on YouTube. And then I think every live stream I've done for the last years on there, you can watch me grow from not having a clue to not having a clue, but with a nicer surrounding. Joe, save some money up. Sparmaxes are nice. I have a Sparmax Max 3. So I have one here. You need these. But don't get me wrong, Sparmax is much better than some of the other brushes, but you're going to spend so much money. Just buy a good one, save up a little bit more. I like them so much I bought 3. So generally what I have is I have a gun with white in, a gun with black in, and then a gun with colour. So then I haven't got to spend hours and hours, just because half the hassle is just changing from shades. That's it, I'm going to take the woolly hat off now, I'm getting hot. See, there's a hair, there is hair somewhere. It's mostly on my face. There's 28 watching, wicked. Yeah, I'll do that. Right, so now, so that's the headlights done, the grills and the bonnet badge. And we've done the window outer frame. I've got a black detail to do there and that one, I think. Yeah, because that one's chrome. That's black as well. And that's black. I'm going to wuss out. I hate doing brake lights, so I'll do those later. For some reason I hate doing them. Is it measure twice, cut once? So look twice, peel once. Always make sure you peel the right section. Because although you can put this back in, if you pull a bit out by accident, it always stretches. I thought to myself, what's more stressful than doing one body shell on a live stream? 2. So I've got everything pre-cut, so it's just a case of peel and paint. Hopefully no one will disappear, but if you do disappear, I totally understand, and you can always watch it later or look at the pictures I post up afterwards. I watched the live stream that Ben did from Australia, and I think I made my excuses at midnight and went to bed. He did a very good job. It was nice to sort of watch back at a later date and see how he did. And surprisingly, as I'm self-taught, it was nice to see him kind of quoting me, because he does the same thing, and he's self-taught. Right, so that are those. I've been really practicing with my knife, trying to get the tails of my let's turn this down, of my points. That's better. To try and get my points to look sharper. So what I've done is I've tried to, oh, look, it shows up. There you are, look. That's nearly sharp enough to cut your finger. Ow. And it's case of where you draw to and then pull the knife another 5mm past, and then if you do the same on the other side, you get this really, really sharp point rather than like a stubby bent point that doesn't look right. Yeah, everything is pre-cut. You can't be mucking about trying to cut after you've had a couple of layers of paint on, because you can't see through the shell to see what you've got to do. So there's a secondary window frame on the inside of the black one that's already there, so that'll have whatever colour I might do chrome. I haven't decided yet. So everything has been pre-cut. Thank you, Robert. Oh, I've learned the hard way. I remember asking, I might have already mentioned this a couple of times, when I started painting and was getting a bit down with it, I was starting to ask the what I thought were the professionals for some hints and tips, and 9 times out of 10 they never replied, and so you'd never get an answer for how'd you do this, how'd you do that, which I suppose after a while does get a bit much, having to answer all these questions. So I thought, if I ever got even passable, which I think I am now, I would share my knowledge of how I do it. It's not necessarily the right way, it's how I do it. And so this is a bit of an up yours to the ones that didn't reply to me. It's basically peel and paint. Once you get to a certain, once you've got all your cutting, the cutting is the most important part. That's where you should spend your time. Okay. A new blade eats body shell. Every body shell has a new blade. Once you feel it, after a while you'll learn when it's cutting right, because you'll feel a resistance, and then when it starts to go blunt, you'll start to feel it dragging, and that's the moment to change the blade. Occasionally you get them straight out of the packet and they're junk. Luckily I own an art shop, so I buy them by the box. Sorry, I say buy, I borrow. I hope my dad's not watching. So it wasn't just long enough to do that little corner there, so I turned it around and stuck it back down on top. Yeah, so the one bit of knowledge I can pass on to you is, after a certain level we can all paint, but if you can't cut and draw a design, then it doesn't matter how good a painter you are, your cutting that gives you the cutting gives you the sharp points, not the £300, £400 gun. If you're not using sharp blades, new blades, and you're not taking your time drawing and cutting properly, then it doesn't matter how much money you spend. And that's the one thing I've come to sort of terms with. It's not how much money you throw at it. It's the effort and stubbornness. I mean, I've also, to help out cutting, and so you can see where all your blades go, your points are, and all that lot. I've now got my light set up in here, so that I can hold the shell at one angle. You'll see all your cut lines just pop like little lightning bolts. And once you get the angle right, it's much easier to see where you've cut, or more importantly where you haven't, or you have already and you've forgotten. So having a good light setup, generally a darker surface I've found with a light source above you. So obviously I've got, this was grey, and I used an old black bottle of paint and sprayed it black, and then obviously I've got the spotlights over either side. They're angled away so I don't get this huge shine off the shell, because you'd never see it. A bit like off the top of my head, see? I mean, there's hair there, you just can't see it because of the flash. Yeah. Well, Robert, a new blade obviously would help you loads. And if I'm doing an arch, I will use my pinky as a pivot, and then pivot one way, and then turn the shell round, and then pivot the other way. Because obviously your wrist only bends so much, so you've just got to keep moving the shell around, and eventually you'll find if you get your pinky in the right place, you'll get a natural pivot. You'll know how far your wrist can bend, and don't try and do it in one, because you end up like a. So just cut one side, turn it round, and then cut the other side. Make sure you have a reference point of where your blade's finishing, so the next one comes into it. So it's just, yeah, it's just, you just learn after a while to do a slight curve with your using your pinky as a pivot. But you must have your finger ground, because if you're putting all your pressure through the knife, you're just going to push through the shell eventually. So your pinky just becomes a good. I always have my hand, always have a finger planted, so I've got a good. Or I trail my finger alongside, so I then sort of follow the line of the body shell. Hope that helps. Also drawing as well, the same thing when you're trying to draw the outside of a shell. Always have a finger planted. So if you try and draw a perfect circle, or cut a perfect circle, 9 times out of 10 you'll screw it up. So don't try and do it in one, is what I mean. I hope that makes sense. I'm getting a bit of dry tip. Every so often, the blade, the tip will coke up with paint. Doesn't matter how thin you put, how thin. If you do mix your paint, I don't mix mine. Mine's neat out the bottle. So every so often, you have to just literally pick away the dry paint. Because you'll notice it'll start to spit, or you won't get a nice fine point on what you're trying to cut. Sorry, paint. And also having some, I'll put that there now, I know it irritates the camera, that a bright paper underneath means you can see what you've already done. So it's a tip that God rest his soul, Charlie Barnes told me, because I was asking him how do you know when headlights when you've done enough, and he said, well, just stick a bit of white paper behind it and you can see through what you've painted. So having a light bit of paper means you can see where you've got to go. But the best thing I've done, for me personally, so I've built this bench. This is at waist height, so it's not a traditional desk height. So then I sit on a draughtman's chair, so I'm a lot higher up. But it means I can plant my elbows, and then you can pivot on your elbow when you're painting. So having a grounded elbow is very, very, very handy. So if you see, I've got my arm, so I haven't got to. I can brace my arm against my elbow against the table, and I can get a much nicer line rather than trying to do it holding it in the air and it's waving it about. So the shell's grounded and my elbow's grounded. And something I've learnt to do, which I admit I can't do with an RC car. The pros aren't looking at the car, they're looking 2 foot, 3 foot in front of the car, aren't they? So they're looking at what the next corner. I remember it with karting as well. I wasn't looking where I was looking at the next apex or the next point I needed to hit on the track. Barrier, wall, cart, corner. And so you're not looking at, so I'm not physically looking at where the needle is. I'm looking at where I'm taking the needle to, and for some, I don't know how, but wherever I'm looking, with drawing as well, and I'm trying to draw if I put a point there and a point there and put the pen down and then just stare at that point and pull the pen will go to that point. And don't ask me why or how, but I know the pro RC drivers aren't looking at the car, they're looking a couple of feet ahead, and I need to learn to do that. But I figured it out with this, just not with a moving RC car. So you're not, and the same with cutting as well. You're not looking at the blade. You're looking at where the blade's running to. Trust me, if you try it on an old body shell or something, if you draw a point and a point, and then pull the knife from one point to the other point, you'll find you'll get a dead straight line. I don't know how, because I'm not looking at the. Once you start staring at the blade just goes to shit. You just end up with a crappy line. But if you don't look at the blade at all, look where you're pulling the blade to, it's bizarre. I can't be the only weirdo, so it'd be nice to know if someone else can try that. No, just with my chrome, I just use the rich paint chrome. And here's another one I have, and they're both full, because I go through this stuff quite quickly. So on the bottle it says spray it neat, don't back it with anything. And now I know Ben, when he did his live feed the other day, he does back his. I don't. But if you think about it, it needs backing with a black. But once the shell's on the track gives it a natural backing. Before I start, obviously I clean one of these and some fairy liquid, but don't swirl it too much on the windows or where you're going to have high chrome. Just noticed one of those little hexes. See, they get everywhere and on the shell. So this is still all at 30 psi. I won't go to a larger psi until I go to a bigger area. Then it just becomes a pain in the arse when you're trying to spray a large area. And also the neons as well. The neons need a bit more psi. Because if you start spraying them down patchy, they look rubbish. So I find if you don't put a shadow either side of the hex, it doesn't look finished. Hi Daniel. I'm good, sir, thank you. I was looking for some motivation to paint these, and I thought there's nothing better than a live feed to get it, kick up the arse. Good motivation it is to stream. And that's running a bit thick, so clean that off. Oh, I'm out of paint, that's why. No, I don't fill up more than sort of a couple of drops. You just find out you end up throwing it away, you don't use it. All straight from the bottle. That's why I use the detail black and white, so I don't have to muck about with putting any thinners in. And if I do, I just use the cleaner and put like... Everyone's got very scientific ways of, oh yeah, put 6% of this. I'm like to put a couple of drops in it till it looks right, or till it feels right. So I might drop the odd bit of thinner in. Sometimes what I do with the black, when the bottle starts to get a bit old, you know, when you clean your gun out and you got a little bit and it's like, oh, it's not enough in there to put back in the, so you put a bit of cleaner in, whiz it about and then chuck it all back in the bottle, and makes the bottle last a little bit longer. So I can't tell you the percentage though, because I don't know. As I said, I'm not the most scientific of painters. I'm a bit too dyslexic. I'm a bit much more visual. It's starting to lose its tack now, the hex. Should be able to get 2 out of it. I'm trying to make sure I line them up so they're square, so that there's at least one square edge on these hexes. Otherwise they look off. It's a bit like I was ranting about with the front ones. I will try and make sure there's the edge is square. When I generally start on a paint job, it's at least a good hour before I get to any colour. It's all just black and white work. So the black and white work gives you all the texture. That's why if you see anyone trying to sell decent paint jobs and they've not bothered to do lights and grills and they're using the stickers, they're not proper painter, like I was told I wasn't. If you want to be a proper painter, you do lights and grills. then you can charge big money. Well, if you message me, Stefan, we can talk about it. I'm guessing you're not in the UK. Just double checking I've done the bits I need to. The detail white spray is lovely. I use detail white all the time rather than the other brands. It's just the nicest white I've found. So you can't really see the detail in the roof yet until it's all off. Right, let's do these dreaded rear lights. We want to get much detail in the back of these ones. They've got a really nice swoop to them on this Wolverine. What I do is I keep the little circles from the front headlights and I try and put them in the... Jesus, they're not going to fit. Right, well, I won't be doing that. So then what I do, old stars, well, you know, I've got it here, so that's my star. What I do is I cut bits out of it and use it as a template, so that's got all my stars on, but it means I'm left with thousands and thousands of little stars. This is where your tweezer skills come in handy. Oh, he dropped them into your toe. I've stuck my tweezers in my knee before. Not deliberately, I dropped them. So I put the little star down, so I pick the star off the cutting sheet, stick it where I want it, put my finger over the top. No, that one's junk. Start again. So take two, put the star on, and then the other one. Then, much like the front headlight, you just run round the outside, trying not to hit the centre of the headlight, the brake light. And then you pull back and just give it a couple of hits. And then you take your sharp knife, click, pull, and the star comes off. Now the YouTube music set I've listened to is finished, so I might change the channel in a second. When I first did the live streams, I turned into DJ Basil, and I was hammering all sorts of, because I like dance music, because I can't sit quietly. So I had music thumping in the background, and I kept on getting told off by the Facebook police for music copyrights. And the same on Twitch as well. Well, to start with Twitch you could do it. And I left Twitch, I got fed up with it. And so I've come back to here. So now I'm listening to music on here. And so I don't know if you can hear that. I have music on all the time. I also, because I've got my, you can see it, I've got my other screen here. I'll wave to myself. There, hello. So I can watch movies up on that. So I can sit and paint and watch. I've just watched, so this will give you an idea how much time I've spent out here. What we're on the 24th. So I started watching the Vikings series on Amazon Prime, and I finished it 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago. So I have watched 6 seasons of that in less than 3 weeks while I've been painting. So I need something else to watch now. And I've just watched all again. I went and revisited all of the Lost series that I've watched. So I've watched that as well. So I spend a lot of time sitting out in the world headquarters. And now I've got my little heating system. I can hide away from the world out here. Right, so I can still use my ovals on the back head brake lights on this one because they're I know they fit. It's just getting them to look right. We'll wang a star on there as well because we can. So it's the same process again, so clean the tip off. And then you're not trying to hit the actual area, you're trying to hit where the mask line, where you're lining the mask is. You're like 2 mil behind it, so not on the actual area you're aiming for, if that makes sense. So I like to say when I'm on a proper RC track, I'm about 2 foot off the racing line all the time, so it's about similar with my painting. I can see the apex, I just can't get to it. I have a new lockdown toy to build at some point. I bought myself a 2-wheel drive buggy, which I built and used. I used it once, right? Went to a meeting in October, built it the week before because it was my birthday, ran it for the first time ever. Heat 2, so practice, it didn't fall apart and I didn't break it, brilliant. Heat 1, finished all right. Heat 2, chucking it down with rain, TQ'd. And then they cancelled the meeting, we had to go home. So my only buggy meeting and my 3rd ever run using it, I TQ'd. I might retire, I promise. I might not use it again. But I might have bought myself a 4-wheel drive as well. And then I've got a little is it 1/14 scale LC racing for the back garden. Oh my god, it motors. So I now need to build myself little ramps in the garden. Like I haven't got enough things to do already that aren't particularly pointless and a waste of time. But I did find a firm that will professionally make you jumps, and I'm like, woo! I don't know what, Paul. I don't know what to watch. I don't know what. I can't say I thoroughly enjoyed Vikings. I watched it because I wanted to see what happened to a couple of the characters I didn't like. I'm quite vindictive like that. I watch it because I want to see what happens to the baddies. But I really don't know what to watch. Right now, let's get the fiddly bit out of the way. So you now see there's the star and the oval. I don't know if you can see it from there. That's a crap angle. Hang on, what if I do this? If I do... Nope, it's worse. See, here's me. There's my... yeah. So, see, I've got my camera above my workspace. Right, so now we need some colour in that. So so what we're in, we're an hour and a half in, and it's the first shade of colour. Now I was super lazy. I was using this to do nitro block. So this needs a proper little bit of a clean out. I bought from this my supplier, which is Schumacher. They do clear coat, and if you read about it, it says it's nitro friendly, well, proof. And I've done 3 or 4 shells with it now, and no one's come back and said oi. I did Jan Rositsky's Rositsky, I never get it right. I did a 1/5 for him with it, and I must have used a whole bottle up just nitro blocking this bloody great thing. So what I have here is I have a bottom of a 2 litre bottle of water cut out. I call that my spit cup. So that's where I put all the odds and sods of paint I don't want. And every so often I clear that out. Go chuck it on some weeds. See, I'm a very lazy painter. I should have done that after I did the job I was doing. But I just left it in there because I couldn't be asked. It's actually coated up the inside of the cup. I do have some stronger thinners. I can whiz through it if I need to. Oh yeah, Jan is like super nice. He's got to the point now where he can't be asked to text me, so he just sends me these voice messages. So I've got hundreds and hundreds of voice messages. I'm very lucky to paint for him. I don't know how that happened. Say hello to him for me if you see him. I haven't spoken to him for ages. Right, so now we're going to put some neon red. I try and have a marble in each pot, and literally a couple of drops. You're only doing a tiny bit of area, and that's it. It's so infuriating when you're going around doing a shell and you've got to keep changing the colours over. That's why I like to have so many brushes. Now, the lowest heat as possible. I'm not trying to melt it. If you can't hold it, then it's too hot. Because if you shock it too hot, it dries in a film and it won't dry on the shell, if that makes sense. You'll see it, you can see it physically crack. Well, Paul, I've actually got a little airbrush you can buy off me. The one I started with, and then I realised that it wasn't big enough for what I wanted to do, because I do a lot. So I use a Bambi, and I use a Bambi 9 litre tank. So I use the smallest one they do. It just sits under the table, running, and it's been, touch wood, it's been all right. So I did some light shading, so you can still see a bit of the red. You can't really tell in this angle, but you got the star is still red, and then the outer is like a off red, so it's not in your face bright red. It's trying to make them look right because they're so small. You don't want them to look too over the top. But they're a nice feature, but you don't want them to overpower everything. Or you could just stick the kit stickers on the back, and I'm not going to complain if you do the back and you use those, because I hate doing these, hate them. All that effort for such a small area. They're bright red. They just look orange in this light. Two seconds. Right. So we are looking at, just trying to remember what colours I've got to do. So I did neon red. Let's write this down. Thankfully this is one of mine. So neon red. So it's to look like the Italian flag. So hopefully there's no Italians on here just for me to upset. Green, red, white, green, red, chrome. This is white. That's white. So that's green. That's red. That's white. Red. White. White. There's nothing wrong with writing your letters down, because then you know you're not going to peel out the wrong bit. White. That's white. Because trust me, it's much harder to sort out a screw up. I was going to swear then. White. Right, so there's not a lot of colour to this actually. So, what colour did I do first last time? Oh, screw it, I got red in the gun. So that should have sounded way more professional than that. Please, this is where I spent ages. Oh, is it pulled? No, it's. Oh, hey! Yeah, the time I spent. I should let that dry. It just dropped a little bit. That'll dry in a second. The time I spent trying to cut out that tiny little section. When you get to do a wolverine, please message me and say, yes Basil, they're an absolute git getting into this corner here. So right next to the rear brake light. You can swear, that's fine. Make me laugh more. I just want validation that I spent ages on them. And I'm not the only one. Now it's important I don't pick out the wrong bit. This is where the tweezers come in handy. And if you're taking your time with your lines, they should just peel away. Look at that. In one section as well, look at that. That's front bumper to rear boot. Trunk, as some Americans say. It was just a little bit too wet, so when the mask has hit back on that, it's just flicks and paint. It's going to be red anyway, so. And then that tail has moved. So you put it back down. They have a habit, when you do really thin points, when you peel them out, they have a habit of picking up and moving and going down. It looks like a bent banana at the end, and you'll find when you finish a body show and you look at it, your eye is drawn to the points. If your points are off, then for me, that's the first thing I stare at when I look at a body shell. So if the points are off, then people's eyes are going to get drawn to that, and they're not going to look at the rest of the shell. Well, I don't. Not in the same nice light anyway. So always try and make sure your points are even and sharp. Now I was going to do that chrome. Might make it more difficult for myself. I'm going to add a pin line and do that in the colour so it looks like the flag. So where is my cut line? Just getting the light right to see where my line was. So it's there. So if I put no, it doesn't need that line. Right, no, just talk myself out of that. Fine. Right, so I'm going to do that. I think that's going to look better than chrome. So what I was going to do is I was going to have a red, green, and then this was going to be a chrome, like double pinstripe. But what I'm going to do is, because I'm doing the Italian flag on the bonnet, I'm going to do it up here on the roof as well, because that's white, so it'll be the same on the boot as well. So green, white and red. So this will be green, white and red. This is a good bit. Look at the top of my head, look. There was hair there once. I've worn it off for wearing these headphones. Right, so now I've got to put that to there and then do the same with this one. So it's a reference point. I'm just going to say red, green. And I've got them the right way round. So that's there, so that's there, so that's red. Permanent marker wise, so that's got B written on it, which means it's best. That's the best one at the moment. Can we do Italian on the top? It depends what she looks like. So, oh, a Pilot twin marker pen, available in all good art shops like mine. So you have a thick point and you have a thin. Now me personally, I use the thick, and these are by far, I mean I borrowed a box from work and they are the, I can't get them anymore, which is annoying. Well, I can't get them for me, but if you can find these online, these are the best permanent marker pens. So they're a Pilot twin marker pen. But as you can see, I've got after a dozen. And Mikey, I wasn't asking for approval. I was going to do it anyway. I hadn't looked up to see if they go for it because I just decided to do it. Oops. See, this is getting larger now, look. Like my ego. Peel your mask not from the point, from a 10mm back, and go with it, if that makes sense, so that you're not pulling against the point, because that's when it has a habit of wandering off and causing it to rip. There we are, in one again. Now, this side's going to be neon red. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the super secret basil flicky technique in dark red. So if you see all these painters and they've got like hundreds of paintbrushes around going, oh yes, I have to use this very posh badger fur brush, and they go, yes, I have to flick it at 90 degrees and it has to be semi-wet and all this bollocks. No, just cut the bottom off a bottle. Let's grab a decent one. This one I've got. Here's one I cut earlier. So that's the bottom of the thinner. So I just turn them into little cups. Whack your paint in that. Actually, give it a whiz. Then make sure you get it the right way, the right direction that it's going to be going. Move your phone, because my TV monitor has got paint splats all over it. Then a finger of your choice. There you go, Mikey. Give it a good blob. Now I found if it's not mixed too much, it's nice and blobby. At the moment this is looking like it's hit something. I walk around permanently with like my fingernail, the last colour I painted, because it never comes out from under the fingernail. And then the same again, but make sure you always flick the same way. I really want to see those fingers. But this is a super secret technique that no one wants you to know, because it doesn't cost anything. If they want to sell you loads of brushes. And I have an art shop and I can sell you art brushes. But there's absolutely no point. You can really get these wicked trails that it really flicks at the wicked black's the best. Don't mix it, you just do it neat and it just flicks these wicked blobs of paint. Oh yeah, Jared, I know they're still for sale. I can buy them, but my supplier I was buying them from stopped doing them, or we changed wholesalers or something like that. And I need to sort of wangle getting them again, because I'll have to say that we've got some very important customer that wants them. Me, I want them. So, and then a little bit of heat. You need to figure out how much flick you want on your shell, and you'll figure it out eventually how much you like. Don't think you can really see it too clearly. But I like it when you get these long trails of it, like a hedgehog or something's run up the bonnet, or other small spiky animals. But you need to give it you need to hit it with a little bit of heat so it's slightly dry, because when you now hit it with some paint in a minute with an airbrush, it will run. I missed a bit. What does he with it? There it is. The truck got away. And you can get different size blobs on different size fingers. But that is the super secret flicky basil technique, and with blood, with red, it does look pretty horrific. So now it looks like it's properly hit something. Sorry. Right, so that's the dark red, so that now goes away, and then we get the neon red, which is red, not orange, because the camera has a habit of making it look a little bit off. So I want this nice and mixed. Now a bit more PSI now. So I'm going to go up to 40. Okay, 41. 41 and a half. Right. What, today, or no, I started painting as soon as I started racing and started crashing. I really enjoyed painting body shells, so I started. My daughter is 8 in May. No, she'll be 9 in May. So 9 and a bit years. 9 and a bit years. But for other people, 5 years. Because when I got half decent enough and I wasn't breaking a shell every week, I got very upset because I didn't have anything to paint. But then I started painting for other people to give me something to do. Trust me, it's red. It might look orange, but it's the wacky camera. The joys of live streaming. I mean, I have a full head of hair, you just can't see it. Paul, if you're going to start painting, you're going to need at least enough enthusiasm to see you through the first 6 to 8 months of it, because it's the most soul destroying thing. You look at something that takes you, I don't know, 20 hours, and it looks like a drunk toddler has done it. I couldn't get my coordination right. I couldn't get my cuts right. I couldn't get my paint gun to work properly, and it just looked terrible. But I was so proud of it. It's only because you look back on it in hindsight and you look at something and you go, "Oh my God, I was happy with that." It's like I painted a new version of a black and white shell I did 4 or 5 years ago, and the difference between the two is night and day now. I was so proud of it when I did it, and now I'm a bit like makes me cringe. But that's just natural progression. But you need the enthusiasm or the what's the word? To be able to look at it and go, okay, I'm going to improve. Because you just get. I know so many people that have painted. Oh, I'm going to start painting because they've taken the piss out of my work. And then you ask them how they've got on, and they go, "I've sold it," and they wouldn't even show me. So, and I taught myself in front of everyone because I stupidly started putting up this page and started showing everyone what I was doing. I mean, I could cringe if you go back into this. Like I was looking the other day, and I have like 2,000 posts on here from my mobile phone of like work I've done. And you go back to the very start and then look now, but you can see an improvement. And if you can see an improvement, or you finish a shell off and you go, I can do that bit better, and then you do that bit better on the next shell, then you see this bit and you go, oh, I could do that bit better, and then you do that bit and then that bit better, and then you can see that you can see it moving forwards. But it's having the, not humility. You're not going to pick up a brush and paint like you expect to start with. It's a really, really frustrating hobby. But once you nail it, it works. Oh, Leon. A lot of it is hand and eye coordination, and you go like, oh my god, why is my hand not doing what I want it to with a knife? And like drawing a design, and like I first one I did, I try. Oh, I'm just going to do some flicky bits here and make this like that. It looks like I've gone with my left hand after 5 beers and tried to draw dragon's teeth. It's just the most infuriating thing ever. And I've worked so hard to try and get my lines and flow to look right. If that makes sense. I talk a lot about flow when I don't really understand what it means. But if the shell flows, it looks like it's going fast. That's what I call flow. All the lines are the right proportion and it just looks quick. So you definitely need enthusiasm for the first year. Let's give it a year. The amount of people I know that have just sold stuff, or they blame their airbrush or their compressor or something's off. The biggest killer is time. If you can't give this hobby enough time. You know, I even built the world shed quarters out in the garden so I can sit out here and give it the time it needs, or the lack of sleep. I've been out here and hearing the birds like on a weekday when I've got to go up and do a full day because I've got like Jan will send me an order for a shell and he needs it 100 mile an hour, and so I've got to stay up till like 3 or 4 in the morning, and he's doing a night shift and he's going to me, why are you up? I was like, right. Yes, CJ, blame the tools. So it's starting to appear now. So now we've got to do the same thing on this side, but in green. I'm going to back that though, because I don't want to get the green in with the red. So what happens when you put green and red together? That's right, it looks shit. And it also, because it gives you green and red. See, I have a colour wheel. Let's have a look. Is it brown? No, no, first go, red. Going green gives you brown. I had a fussy customer. He wanted it lightweight, so I didn't back the colours. Then wouldn't pay for it because the two colours had joined and made a colour he didn't want. I was like, well, yeah, that's why you back it. So I took some thinners, took off the detail bits that he'd asked for specially, and then I sold it. You don't have to have it on there super thick, just enough to hold it up to the light. If you can still see the colour, it doesn't hurt. You don't want to be blasting through all your supplies of paint. So that's now changed the colour tone. See, this one's back with white, and this one's not. Can you see the difference? Even on this crappy camera you can see. Now, these are red, I promise you. Looking nice. When I was asked to do this by Mikey, he just said, Italian flag please. I thought, how the hell do I make an Italian flag on a body shelf when it's not? I had to sit down for ages and try and figure out how to do it. And then I thought, hang on a minute, if I have everyone looking at the bonnet and then have the Italian flag on half and half, that'll work. So that was a serious grey moment at like 4 in the morning. I think it works. Right, so that's the red done. So I'm going to do the pinstripe for the windows. Normally I do the bright colour, but as the bright colour is just, I don't want it to clash, so I think half and half will look shit. So I'm just going to do chrome. I swore then, I shouldn't have done. I got more viewers though, I should swear more. That's 26 people I've just sworn at. Thank you for watching. I'm not going to ask why you're watching paint dry on a Sunday night. Just going to say thank you for watching. It depends which way you're facing, isn't it, I suppose? The Hungary flag. And it could also be the Irish. There's lots of, when you look at it, when you're looking at flags, there are quite a lot of similarities between quite a few nations. They just normally have a badge or something in the middle. Take the German flag, that's 3 colours, isn't it? And then it's very close to the, I'm going to insult people now by saying it's close to the, is it Belgium colours? We've got 3 crosses on ours, because we're so great. This has lost me viewers. We're better than Scotland, we're better than Wales and Ireland, so we've got all of them. My racing crash helmet had a St George's cross on it. I remember I'm actually going to try and recreate my racing crash helmet now that I've kind of figured out what I'm doing. And it's St George's flag on it. But when I sent it to the painter to do it, I was like, I'd like St George's flag, and then I sent him a badge and I said, can you match the rest of the crash helmet, can you just do in the colours of this? And I sent him the Ferrari badge. I said, can I just have those please? Because I'm a little bit of a Ferrari fan. Well, a little bit, I still am, I'm a huge Ferrari fan. Went to the Italian Grand Prix. You got to go to Monza. If you're a Tifosi. Even though I'm an English one, I'm still a Tifosi. Even though I quite like the lineup with McLaren this year, I still can't support McLaren. I just can't. I just keep seeing Ron Dennis in the reflection of that car and I just want to punch it. Well, when I was coming back from the British Grand Prix one year, we were stuck in the most enormous traffic jam, which you always get coming out of Northampton, and a red people carrier drove past, and John Todd was staring out the window at me. I mean, he was staring through me, obviously, but I was like, "Oh my God, that's John Todd!" Obviously, the time was the head of Ferrari. So me and my complete geekness, I knew exactly who he was. But he looked straight through me. I was just like, oh, no reason why he shouldn't. So Stefan, I didn't mean to insult you, Stefan. I hope I haven't. They are the similar colours, at least. Okay, they're different ways round. I know, but you get what I mean. Oh, that was close. I just picked up the pinstripe. Be a bit more careful. Mikey, no pressure, but I hope to see these on the website for when you choose these body sails for sale soon. But no pressure. At least for the Wolverine. There we go, there's the bum twitching bit, this corner section again on this side. Right, don't put detail into these bits, these fins. Who hates doing LMP12 fins? I promise you, that's as hard. I can't even get the tweezers in there to pick the bit up that's jumped. I think I got away with that just. A bit like I did with Stefan. Sorry. Right, so now I'm going to do neon green. Do I need some dark green? Sorry, I've just wandered off. I'm going to get some colours. I won't be a second. Paul, if you look at some of my older videos, so that sounds well pervy. If you look at some of my older streams, you'll see I started off one time like cutting out the shell while I was talking to everyone, just for some content. Because I was streaming first lockdown back in March, I was streaming 2 or 3 times a week. So yes, there is some streaming of masking and cutting. Drawings though is super secret. No, I'm joking. I don't know if people would actually want me to do a drawing video. That's not some stunned silence waiting for you all to go yes, but I just don't know if there's a demand for it. Right, so now we're going to turn my red finger brown. That sounds a bit dodgy actually. Oh, bollocks! I missed the bonnet. The problem with doing I used to do the cutting out on stream, I wouldn't get to paint for like an hour and a half. Then I just had to be all charismatic and stuff, and everyone turned off. So you're trying to make it look like it's got splatter, but not like a pigeon shit on it. There's a quote. What I did for this one, I've just taken the lid off. This one I know is a bit more thinned down because it's pearl. Pearl's an absolute bastard to paint with. So I always put a bit, I do put a bit in there. I don't know how much, just enough to stop it clogging up, which means it flicks way easier. So my finger's gone sort of pearly, sticky, something colour. Anyway, so I've got like some sort of weird nail going on. Right. Mikey, if you're still there and haven't gone to sleep, do you want the pinstripe in chrome or in black? Can you let me know? Because I think black would stand out quite nicely. Because the chrome against a light colour sometimes hasn't got the bite to it. It needs to be a darker colour. I personally, having thought about it, I think black pin might look nicer than chrome, but it's your choice. And then I'll ignore you anyway. That's a joke. Right, green. Is that tri-black okay, or I don't want to go again, because I know you said you wanted it the same as the last one, which I've already ignored. You see where the permanent marker lines are? They're in black, obviously. I think they'll just stand out nicer than chrome. But you are the customer of sorts. Okay, good choice there, Mikey. Good choice. Good choice. Didn't bully you into that at all. I think it'll work nicely against the black as well. We've already got, so I think it would give a nice edge. Which means I should have really done it first, but we'll get around that. Remember, not too much heat. If you can't hold on to it, then it's too hot. Because I personally think it shocks it if you put too much heat through it. Obviously these are the 0.5s as well, so they heat transfers through them much quicker. You have to be much careful with cutting these out as well. Your design, I mean. I'm starting to see a bit more. You'll see the true colour when I finished. The green stands out all right. It's pretty. It's a bit light. Actually, it's a bit. It's a slightly different shade to what the camera shows. But this is only a cheap camera, so. Like everything here was given to me, which was very nice at the time. allow me to talk bollocks to a lot more people. But it definitely suffers. If I put my hand over it, it's hot. So it definitely loses its quality over a couple of hours. Right, so we've got the white front end to do, the white rear round there up to there, and the white there. But we can't do that now until we've done the black pinstripe. So we'll do that next. Should have done that at the start, but we've wangled that as we've gone along. I sort of bullied Mikey into changing his mind. So we're going black now, which I think is going to look much sharper. So now's your pinstripe reveal. No, Paul, I've bought the camera to do it. I just haven't figured out how to get the camera to talk to the computer yet. I'm not the most computer savvy. I'll get there. Another one of my mini lockdown ideas. I was going to say project, but it's not. I have actually got it. Now, I spent a long time on these pinstripes. See what I mean about having the pinky on the shell and curving it with the way your hand curves. Sorry, bends. So I just decided that it needs a black edge around this front bonnet section. should probably wait for this paint to dry a bit more, but I'm not rushing, but I'm eager. I'm going to definitely know not to do any detail into these boot fins. Yeah, that was upsetting me, that, so I've had to put a pinstripe around that. I think it didn't look right, especially now I've got these strong lines here, and then that was going to look a bit naked on its own, so I've done the round it as well. It wasn't looking right to me. That's how I know it's wrong. Perhaps everything's wrong, but to me personally it felt wrong. Where I'm going over into the brighter colours, I'm trying to keep the black into the mask. Try and stop the overspray, or glow, whatever the term is, going into the brighter section. So I'm trying to keep it in the as much as I can. I don't know if they've announced who's going to be the next person to do a live stream for the paint group again is. Ben did a very good job. It's quite cool to see who does it next. I'm quite keen to see other people's styles. I know I'm one of the only idiots to come on here and show you mine. But that's not from an arrogancy point of view. I mean, that's because I'd like to think I know I'm not very good. I'm just trying to help other people. Anyway, so I think that looks much stronger now with the black pinstripe around it, especially on that bonnet section. So it's still got white in the centre, but there's no black line between that. That's just the permanent marker doodles. So you have a little bit of overspray underneath the pinstripe. So your tweezers, you pinch your tweezers together, they come a nice sharp point, and then you can clear any doo-doos and nobody knows. Much crisper that bonnet section looks now with the two. So this is going to be white. See then Mikey can have these long list of sponsors here. You get at least, I don't know, 20 in there. Less is more. Part of me wants to put a pinstripe on this top section here, but I just don't think it'll work. Because obviously the flag hasn't got a line between them, the colours. I think we're doing very well for 2.5 hours to get this far. We're not far off finishing, and I've done 2 shells, and I've still got 17 of you watching. Is it that, isn't it? It's that sort of a blobby heart. It's quite weird because when I'm watching this on the camera, there's a couple of seconds delay from what I do to what comes up on the screen. I know when I'm watching this back, I'm wincing at this bit now. Right, white. Obviously remember to leave your squares in for your window hole, for your little holes to see where, when you're trying to mark the shell up, what the customer is. Always remember to leave your little holes. Right, slight boo-boo. I picked a bit out before I did the black canvas. Not the end of the world. And also you get these little bits, no matter how much mask you put in them, they never ever peel away on the front section of the rear wing post. So you always have to pick out the bits. What I mean is that in the top of the front section of the wing post, the mask dries, but it doesn't, never sticks there. I can never get enough on it with a spray gun. I should have a little brush, but the brushes just go rotten because you only use them so infrequently. Right, so now I've got to repair my doo-doo. Obviously I did this to show you. Oops. All sorted. I was lucky it was only an easy bit. Right, I should take more care on this one. So I've done that side, and I've done that side. Right. For the record, I still really wanted to put a black line round there, and I'm not going to. But part of me really wanted to do that. And to that degree, down this centre line here, I think it gives it a better, but it's not, that's the flag. One thing I'm going to do just super quickly, I'm going to turn the heating off because I am absolutely roasting. I've never said that before in here. But this shed's always been, with the heating I had in here previously, I still got it, it's my aircon unit. It would only heat from the ceiling to about a metre down from the ceiling, so everything above like my shoulder height was fucking roasting hot, and then my waist downwards was freezing. So with this new heating system I've installed, I've got the heating pipes coming right out by my toes, so I've got some super heat. The little diesel heaters and heating system. You can probably hear it cooling down now because it winds up a little bit. Yeah, I'm really not enjoying these little fins. I'm sure they'll get easier as the designs work around it. I actually left a bit in there, so I've got to get that out. It's just learning with new shells, isn't it? You're just thinking, all right, this one's a little bit trickier. It's like with the twister, you've got to always remember to do the little turrets for the rear wing. And with this, it's just into this rear arch finned bit. So that one. That's a good bit there. So that's my heating system. Purging the diesel that's left in the system. You can hear it. It's like a toasty 22 degrees in here now. We've had a smidgen of snow today. I mean, like literally oh, look, a flake. Right, we are ready for some wet. Well, that stencil, it's like a weird hex. That was made by Aaron. He's on the paint group, and he sent me the stencil. It does look wicked. I haven't got it here to show you. Have I got a bit here? No, I haven't got it here to hand. I'm still a massive fan of the hex pattern, to be honest. But he sent me that, and it was very kind of him to send it to me, so I use it. is starting to reveal itself. Once we get the overspray off and get rid of these permanent marker lines off. Well, it's not mine to give away, so if you can find Aaron on the group chat, on the paint chat, and ask him nicely, he might send it to you. He sent it to me for nothing. I'm quite protective of stencils. If I've made my own, then I won't share it. No offence, because I know how many hours I've spent on it. Hello John, I use the Iwata Eclipse CS HP, what is it? No, it's called Iwata Eclipse HPCS, it's Japanese. I have 3 of them, so they're all the same. There's no mucking about changing the PSI, and because if you have different guns, some of them have different needles, and so you end up, if you're doing what I'm doing, you'll end up having to change the PSI every time you change your gun, or you forget and then you blow the wrong PSI through it. So I've now got 3 guns the same, which I'm lucky though to be able to the position where I can run 3 guns. I mean, if I'm honest, I've got 6, but I've got 3 the same. But their guns are like RC cars, you can never have too many. Well, that's what I told my wife. I've just been talking nicely about you, and now you're going to gum up. Thank you. The nice thing about running this detail white is it sprays such low PSI compared to the thicker stuff, and you use less, so you'll find the bottle of it goes a lot further. You can see by how many times I'm having to fill it up, although it's being a little git at the moment. I'm not saying on camera, Stefan. On road, 2, 3 on road. Off road I've got 2. So I made a vow, if I can't have it running, so if it's sitting on the shelf, if I can't turn it, charge up a battery and make it run, I shouldn't have it. So I don't want to be changing speed controllers over, and so the 4-wheel drive buggy I've got won't get built until I can afford to pay for the electrics to go in it. So I've got it there. So I'm not robbing one car to make the other one work. I want them all to work, independent of each other. So that's my one promise to myself. If I can't afford to put the electrics in it, then I can't have it, or I can't run it. So the next project is a 4x4, a buggy. But to be honest, I'd rather do 2-wheel drive. I just bought the 4-wheel drive because the 2 mates I go with have always got them. So the place I'm hoping to go race when we eventually open again does cater to, you can run 2 classes if there's enough people. So I don't want to feel left out, so I feel like I was pressured into it. So I've now got a 4-wheel drive buggy as well, even though I can't even drive 2-wheel yet. Not properly. Right. When I say properly, I mean don't crash. I don't mean like properly as in like win and stuff. Right, chrome for the windows and we're done. So I'll let that dry for a second. Oh, sorry, cool down. That's the word. These are looking super sharp. So I put a secondary window on these zoo shells. They've got this really nice like raised frame. So I've made that into a window frame, inner. Paul, I'll be going down to Barham, which is Folkestone Road. Very near Lyddon Rallycross track. You see, Stefan, I've only just taken up off-road, purely because there's nothing to do on-road. And the BRCA, which is the organiser, the British Radio Controlled Association, Car Association, they said, please, with what's going on at the moment, please don't drive hundreds of miles to go to a race meeting, go to your local track. And the nearest track to me that's outside is a buggy club. So I had to go and buy a car. And then I had to go buy another one. I have the email ready for when my wife finds out. See, look, they told me to. I had to go to the local track. So if the current Mrs. Basil is watching, I'm in trouble. So this is what I was talking about, the inner window frame. So I spend ages cutting these. And they just peel out in seconds. But I find these incredibly calming and satisfying cutting the window frames. If I could just cut window frames, then I'd be quite happy, which I know sounds very odd. I like following the blade with my eye, and it's just a nice cut. So that's the cut. So you've got the outer frame, and then this is an inner frame on the inside and down on the bottom edge. So we could do that in chrome. Well, Stefan, if you can drive on road, you can do off road. It's just got some jumpy bits, which I try on road anyway. I'm always trying to jump stuff with my touring car. Curbs, barriers, marshals. So I thought I'd try buggies. And I must admit, the jumps did spook me slightly, but I just let off when I went over them. I mean, not a fart, I mean like I let off the throttle. I mean, a little bit of wind did come out. But then driving around the infield, there was a class in the UK called GT12, which was rear wheel drive GT LMP style vehicles. And I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I was actually reasonable at those, because I seem to get on with rear wheel drive cars. Having years and years of go-karting in my head, I can't get my brain to engage the throttle halfway round a corner when the car's not pointing the right way. I have to wait for it to square up. And so I'm liking the fact with a two-wheel drive buggy, you turn into the corner, you stamp the brake and the arse steps out, and then you can oversteer. And I just really enjoyed it straight away, locking up into a corner and the back of the car sliding round, and I was like, oh, I like this. And then it turned out I wasn't shit at it, so I'm looking forward to going back. But it just strikes me that the buggies are like, I'll probably get slated for this, you just chuck them on the track, literally. You don't see people doing much setup work to them. So I'll probably get slated for that. So I was just changing my music. Right, we're nearly there. What is the time? Oh, it's 11 o'clock. I'm actually doing better than I thought. So all that is a bit of cleaner, a knackered old brush, and then the finger over the ends. And I always use my oldest gun for the chrome. You haven't been keeping an eye on how big that's been getting. That's that, isn't it? We do that. It's flaring, isn't it? Now that started off as a tiny little lump. We've still got the window masks to go on it yet. When I'm doing Jan's stuff, and I'm doing like his, it's got into 8th scale electric, and so that's a load of mask. And then when he uses his 5th scales, and so I've had a tremendous amount of balls of this stuff. Like it's about there. I've only done one buggy meeting, Philip. So that's what I mean. I know I was going to upset somebody. And it absolutely pissed it down. So much the meeting got cancelled. But I was pleased I wasn't rubbish at it. That was all I was concerned about. And it didn't blow up. And it went in a straight line. And it turned. And it jumped. I think the art in those is the tyres, isn't it, and the shocks. I mean, what I was doing is putting it into perspective of like a touring car. Like a touring car, you take it completely, all the wheels off, you put it on the gauges, and I was like, you don't have gauges for a buggy, well, not as like we do for touring cars. It's much more like trying to do camber and caster. It's more of an art. Right, mirror based chrome. Oh, I haven't done a bit. I didn't pick a bit out. So obviously this is solvent based, so this is a bit more stinky. When I say a bit, I mean like loads. I've got to hold my breath. It's like walking into a Timpson's shoe repair shop smelling that stuff. Obviously, if you spill this stuff, which I have done, and on stream, don't, for the love of God, rub it. If it hits any paintwork, don't rub it off. Just take a hairdryer and dry it, or try and drip as much of it off the shell as you can. The moment you touch it to try and rub it off, it just melts all the paint underneath it. So just let it dry on the shell. It doesn't show through. But the moment you try and touch it or agitate it, a bit like me, it rubs off. Well, I've got more people watching than I thought I would at this time. There's still 14 of you. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please ask or message me and I'll try and help. I don't do anything for streaming for profit or anything. I just do it for my own amusement. It gives me a bit of a kick in the arse to keep painting. You get a bit of a buzz from it actually. For helping people. Hopefully you can see something I've done and you can do it properly. But if you could find the only thing I ask is, could you find my YouTube channel? And give it whatever they say. Was it a thumbs up or a subscribe or some bell or whatever they say? Yeah, click the bell end. Sorry, that made me laugh. That'd help me out. Because all I do is I repost from here onto there. But I'm hoping at some point to stream from there properly when I get a better camera set up. But I've just hit, well, I hit 1,300 likes the other day. And then that one eighth shell I did got me 33 likes or 32 likes in one afternoon. So I'm ticking along quite nicely at the moment. It's just an ego boosting thing, it's not for any use of anything. remember, 2 to 3 layers of liquid mask. If you put it on too thin, trust me, I've been there, it'll take you like an hour to just peel out what I've taken out in about a minute. So always put way more on than you think, because if you get it on too thinly, then it's an absolute nightmare. It can't support its own form, so it just tears, and so you'll just be picking at bits. And then especially if you hit it with the solvent or with rattle cans, that upsets it as well. So be careful, always more. Right, the grand unveiling. You there, Mikey? Still awake? I bet he's asleep. This is the one I'm interested to see. Ooh, pretty. And the paint. I do like the quality of the zoo shells. I use a 2mm. No, 1mm, sorry. Let me get my teeth in. Look how sharp those points are. You'd cut your finger on them. So I'll put some pictures up in a minute. Yes, Stefan, about 40 to 50 with the spray gun. Sorry, the camera can't cope now. It's got too hot. Can't show the contrast. Right, so oh, I've got to do my stickers. Oh. Now I always mount them off to the right, purely because it upsets Jan. He keeps telling me to put them in the middle. So now I know it irritates him, I keep on doing it. Before this COVID thing kicked in, he was actually going to come over and say hello. When he was flying, because I'm not too far from the airport. So he was going to fly over and say hello on his connecting flight to somewhere else. But obviously, world has stopped, hasn't it? No, camera can't cope. So I'll take hopefully some nice photos and bung them up on the page in a minute. So thank you very much. Still 18 of you watching. I'm really chuffed with that. I might do this weekly. I don't know what day of the week yet, but Sunday seemed quite nice this week. So hopefully, if I've got more work next weekend, I might do this again. Because last lockdown, the proper big lockdown, I was doing it too much, and it became quite stressful. And I was streaming at least 3 nights a week. I mean, it was enjoyable, but it was stressful having stuff ready to stream because there was nothing else to do. So I might turn around to doing this once a week, because I actually quite enjoy talking bollocks to all you lot. So the numbers have dropped as soon as I start talking too much. So thank you very much for watching. I'll do my little piece now that I'm quite chuffed for saying it. All right, so good afternoon. No, good morning. Screwed it up already. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening and good night. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it.